This is Review Your Gear Radio with your host Chris Husted and Jason Renner. Coming to you with the latest topics, reviews, and techniques for hunting and fishing in the Midwest. And here they are, Chris and Jason. Take it away, boys.
Hello, Review Your Gear Radio. I'm Chris Husted.
I'm Jason Renner.
It is Season 4, Episode 20. Yes, it's the 420 edition. Fall has officially arrived podcast. So, how do we start this? It's getting chilly. Like this morning, my buddy in Iowa said they got frost.
That's pretty early down there.
Mm-hmm. And we were 39 when I hopped in my truck this morning. So, I mean, it got colder last week, so don't get me wrong.
Correct.
But my trees are definitely starting to turn.
The 79 this afternoon kind of threw me off.
I know, but my leaves are turning. Let's think fall here, Renner. Never mind the fact that it's going to be in the 80s tomorrow again. So, but seriously, the migration is already kind of kicked in. I mean,
so do the birds know something we don't?
Well, see, that is always the thing about nature. It just kind of has its way of showing itself sometimes. Now, I've seen years where birds come down early for no reason at all, other than they just came down early. It's not like we had an early winter or freeze. So I don't want to say that that's an indicator like that.
Also, it's not like they can't migrate back north.
Do you really think they migrate back north?
Maybe. Depending on food, depending on...
It's funny because you may know a biologist you could ask these types of questions.
I should start a list for him.
Yeah. But yesterday morning, I got 3 different people reach out to me because they know I'd be an inquiring mind. That snow geese had... Like, I had one buddy say he saw 20-some flocks. Ooh. And this was in the central part of the state.
Oh.
From the northeast where he was at, so probably Hudson Bay, I'm just guessing. But point is, is trickle.
But here's the thing, though. And before the dams were built,
It's not the dams.
You don't think it's the
nope.
dams?
No, because I've been up there. I see they don't. Sure, they'll roost on lakes created by said dams, but not always.
Okay. You don't think those are what keep them? Because it seems like you used to be able to go up at Kenmare on opening weekend and shoot.
When I was a kid, we went the first 3 weeks of October.
Yeah. And
it was good. And then towards the end of our group, if you will, going up there, kids and parents, they started coming down later.
Yeah.
So like we were noticeably like we're early.
Because I remember always going teachers convention up to West Hope.
That's usually second week, right?
Third.
Okay. That was about right.
That was
back then.
Back then, yeah.
Remember it used to be cold in October?
I remember like hunting in snow at that time.
I also remember like physically saying, wow, I can't feel my hands out goose hunting. It was cold, like as a kid, it was cold in October. And now it's, people tell me, when should I come? I mean, I'll give the secret. It's no secret, really. It's just, I tell all my buddies, come the first week or 2 of November. First week is peak.
Second week is a gamble.
It's a gamble, but it can be a lot better.
Correct.
If you time it right. But I have seen freeze ups.
Or you could be ice
earlier than the second weekend. I doubt you'd be ice fishing, but with that being said, the snow goose hatch looks solid. I'm getting a lot of reports of gray birds from outfitters and hunters up north, so it's going to be dirty.
Going to be dirty?
Yeah, there's going to be tornadoes. It's going to be F5s continuously. But no, I'm pretty excited. In fact, we do have a feature on that on our upcoming newsletter here at Review Your Gear. I've had a newsletter since the beginning. I'll be honest. I never did a lot with it because I was just trying to grow it. Well, now it's gotten to a point where it's pretty hefty.
You have to do something with it.
So it's a pretty big list now. So with that being said, we have a new name for the list, and I will give you credit. You came up with it.
I do have some
It shocked
good
me.
ideas everywhere.
It shocked me.
I mean,
Shocked me. Breaklines and Fire Lions. So that is the name of our newsletter. It will be coming out here probably, I think, on Saturday. I think on October 1st, it'll shoot out. So with that being said, if you go pretty much anywhere on the website, in the footer, right below an article, for example, you'll see where you can sign up for it.
and the other thing is we want feedback on this.
That's the very first button on the website. Is hit us up for feedback.
Let us know what you want to hear about, either podcast or. I'm not gonna lie, I fielded a call last night about 9:30 from one of our loyal listeners with some feedback.
Was it good or bad?
It was good feedback.
And what was the bad?
No, there was no bad feedback.
Well, then he wasn't being honest.
He might have to. We enjoy the loyal listeners.
Absolutely. With that being said, let's just slide right into the Tales from the Chub Tank.
Calls from the Chub Tank.
I am done, I think, with chubs for the year. I don't anticipate going to get any more. I did donate my chubs to another angler who's going to be using them for the Lewis and Clark tournament this weekend.
So now is it Project Chub Tank for the shop this way?
I've seen a few now. They tell me they pretty much take care of themselves. Now, if you have like the tank I saw the other day, it had a couple of suckers in it. Pretty good sized ones.
To clean, yeah.
Kept it, it was clean. Trust me, it was clean. And then he said he only cleans the filters like twice a month.
So are they using the 5-gallon buckets for filters, that type of filtration system?
It's hard he's got something different. It's like an external, it's not like hooked to the tank. It sits standalone and feeds in and out. And it looks easy to clean because you just open the top, take out all the whatever, and then
meat,
yeah, and then whatever.
Because I've seen a couple of them where they take a 5-gallon bucket, put a bunch of filter medium in it,
okay,
and run it through that, and then they just change out that filter medium every once in a while. And I've seen that done into some really big stock tanks or freezers, and stuff like that. But the stock tanks are those black; they're insulated, I think, a little bit.
Okay.
So, and then they keep it a certain. Pretty sure they keep it a pretty certain temperature.
What most people I see do is they use a timer on the plug-in. So it'll activate power to the freezer for like a minute, once an hour or whatever.
Oh, gotcha.
So it just keeps it cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot of ideas. I see next year, not only do I want to be able to keep chubs, I've tried the fish tanks. I've tried other methods. You can't fight it. You got to go the freezer route. I do want to keep leeches late next year as well. I'm going to get some big leeches, some jumbos, and I'd like to get quite a few and hold on to them.
Problem is if they still breed, they still die off.
Well, I'm sure I'll have a learning curve to those too, but I'm going to certainly try to keep leeches alive.
Tales from the leech tank.
Yeah, that's going to be super exciting. It just doesn't have the same. I don't know.
Not to sound too punny, but that sucks.
I'm literally slapping my head right now. So
hang on.
That's all good. What do you do? So how do you know which trolling motor to buy, Mr. Renner? Nowadays, you have 4 options.
You do have 4. And, I kind of saw this, and I went on a couple forums that I belong to that, and trust me, all four of them have their own little world. But, the one thing that I keep reading, though, is that the company that you never hear about has the best spot lock.
Motor Guide?
Yeah.
It's funny you mention it because I had a conversation with a gentleman that I know and trust. His opinion this morning, he told me, you have to look again at Motor Guide. I was like, what? He's like, well, he knows a really good small engine mechanic, and he says he sees very few motor guides, not because there's not as many in circulation, because down where he's at, all the boats are like the Lunds are getting all equipped with motor guides.
They come with motor, well, because Motor Guide is owned by the company that owns Lund.
Okay, so you get my point.
Well, yeah.
So, and that's Lundville, USA over there. So, and they don't have as much, they don't have many problems.
So here's my take. Okay. The Ghost has probably the second best, which is Lawrence's.
Okay, however.
Spot lock. However, they are noisy.
But if they fix the directional part.
No, that's still an issue.
Yeah, I know, but if and when, it may be as early as this winter when they come out in the shows. I've heard rumors.
Just saying rumors.
Just a rumor. But, that would make it more viable for me. I mean,
yeah.
How often do you look up front to see which way it's aiming? And I would do that all day. It would drive me bonkers.
Yeah.
I'd have to know.
And then, I've heard the forces have some tendency to overheat.
I'm hearing forces are not there yet.
Yeah.
I know it probably hurts you to say that about any Garmin product, but
no, they're not there. They have a tendency to overheat when you run them real hard, which if you're a windy day on any of our reservoirs and you're trying to spot lock, you run them hard.
Yeah.
And so I just don't think they're quite there yet. And then, Minn Kota, I trust me, I love that brand. I've used it for as long as they've been Minn Kotas. But there just seems to be certain models that work and certain models that don't. And the one thing they fixed their spot lock was to put the GPS pucks with them.
Yep.
But you can't get the GPS pucks now.
Yeah. Isn't it a great world we live in? But I have a Tarova still. I've had Tarovas in both my boats. Now, yes, you have to go up there and put it down yourself, but they always work. Knock on wood. You know what I mean? I mean, I had Tarova in my last boat for 9 years, and I had 2 small issues with it in 9 years.
Yeah, no, Tarova is a solid platform. The only thing that, their spot lock has always been
jerky. It worked this weekend for me.
But the other thing is the Altera issue is the skeleton in the closet for Minn Kota. There's a lot of Alteras.
Well, we've talked about it before on this podcast. I certainly won't. If I had a boat that had an Altera on it, I'd swap it out.
Yeah, you'd sell it and get a Tarova.
Right. Or whatever.
Yeah.
So, which also, this isn't on the topic list, but it's the same thing, though. It's a bigger decision on the darn electronics because
everybody's kind of got something they're good at.
Yeah, it just depends what you want it for.
Yep.
And yeah, speaking of too, now is the time to look for fishing deals. Did you know Home of Economy had a half off sale on both their locations in the state? I guess they got completely cleaned out. Half off everything fishing.
Really?
Right off the top. Like even Rapala cranks, we're talking stuff that never goes on sale.
When was
on sale? Just the other week.
Was I in Grand Forks during that? Because I got a huge Home of Economy there.
Yeah, I think you were actually.
Oh, that's a dagger in my heart. Right?
Yeah, but it probably saved you $500,
if not more.
Right. But Yeah, I would be. I remember one time back in the day when I was doing e-commerce, they had a warehouse had a closeout, and they were closing it out like that, like starting at 50% off for everything.
Yeah.
I bought so much stuff. I still have some leftovers, and this was like 16 years ago.
My dad, when we cleaned out the garage, I think he had 3/4 of Sioux Sporting Goods
Oh,
fishing department of everything that nobody wanted
okay.
in his garage. Like there was shallow run bass lures, the old. Do you remember those old Rebel clear, like plastic looking cranks?
Not
They
really.
were bass. Oh yeah, it was just like he had tons of those. I think he bought them for like a penny.
Huh.
My dad was the king of the clearance bin. He had more fishing tackle that was on clearance just to buy it because it was cheap.
Yeah. We all have our crack, I guess.
Yeah.
But I got a question for you, Mr. Renner.
What is that?
How thick is the ice at Lake Audubon?
That is a good question because in these tense times, everybody is wondering how thick is the ice on Lake Audubon?
0. Moving on. Should we do a contest on freeze over? Because
I think we should.
I think we really should. It's about that time. I mean, it's early enough where you can plan ahead. I think we should do something. We should have a nice little giveaway package. Now, we'll have to have rules, though. Okay. For example, I think it's got to be a body of water, lake, bay, something of that nature. I already have my idea on one, of course, but where I need to go and officially see it frozen. And not only that, I think it should be froze and able to be walked on and fished.
Frozen and fishable.
So probably about 3 inches or so. 3-4 inches.
Okay.
I will be out there with a spud bar.
Okay. So we're going to declare, because you're kind of linking something to our last little segment, which is going to be a segment, and our contest.
Yeah, I think Nelson Bay at Lake Audubon, no secret, it's probably going to be, it's for some reason, it freezes. It's like one of the first things that freeze in this state.
Yeah,
I don't know if it, yeah, and you go there to catch numbers, you're going to catch eaters, you're not probably going to catch pigs. No. I can count on one hand how many fish over 20 inches I think I've ever caught, not in Nelson Bay, but we've caught them by the hundreds. So I just like going. I like going there early. It's just a fun place, just to wet a line and break in gear. Yeah. Make sure everything's working. So
we'll release details on that and put it in the.
We'll have to put there's gonna be a lot of rules. Yeah. Put it because someone's gonna be like, whoa. Blah, 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 blah. Someone's always going to fight the rules. You got to make sure you cover all your bases, right?
I thought the law, but the law won.
Okay. So Canada's opening the border October 1st to non-vaccinated people.
Just in time for hockey season.
That's incredible. That's just a few days away. So I know this is going to be a blessing for the fishing and hunting industry. That's for darn sure, because I know a lot of people aren't going up there as a result of that.
Correct.
So, no, that's a good thing. I've been looking for an excuse to get up there again, because I haven't been up there since COVID. So maybe it's time.
Maybe it's time.
Maybe we have to plan a trip.
Maybe.
Early December.
I think so.
Ice fishing.
I think so.
10 to 16 pound walleyes.
Nothing wrong with that.
Sounds like a plan. With that being said, we'll take a break here on Review Your Gear Radio. And we're back here on Review Your Gear Radio. You know what I miss, Mr. Renner?
What's that, sir?
One of the greatest things of my youth was when we used to have block parties when I was a kid.
We didn't do that as a kid.
At all?
No.
Did anyone do it that you heard of?
Not really. It wasn't the Bismarck thing. It must be a Fargo thing.
Okay, when I grew up in North Fargo, we would have, like someone would print out flyers, stick in all the doors with the date. Someone would, people would bring over, it'd be like a potluck.
Yeah.
And kids would run up and down the street. I mean, we would kind of close off the street half,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so much fun back then.
But it just seems like, we never really did that. But I remember, like, company picnics. How many businesses, even do that anymore?
Well, nobody wants to leave their house anymore as employees, so
No.
Picnics all of a sudden, that's like a scary thing.
Even, and not necessarily had like picnic block parties, but I remember my dad's job too. They used to do a like December, right before Christmas. Everybody would bring up the deer sausage. They had a huge wild game feed.
Okay.
Something like that. You just don't hear many places doing that anymore.
Our church used to have wild game feeds like 3-4 times a year. You don't hear about that anymore.
And I almost thought about it the other day as just getting some buddies together.
Maybe we should bring it back.
Wild game feed.
Yeah.
Some beer, some good food, some, I don't know, poker.
I do have a shop for this.
You do have a shop for this.
We can make this happen.
And you got Blackstone. You can make a lot of food with that.
Imagine the possibilities. My gears are turning. When's the last time there was a good old get together of any kind anymore? COVID killed it.
COVID killed it. I mean, you do not hear this stuff anymore. I mean, God, that was, when you think about it, COVID killed a lot of things. We got to change this.
We got to overcome this. I got so much going on in my mind right now about, geez, what would I throw in the Blackstone? What kind of beer would I get? What kind of cocktails we're making? Yeah. It's going to be fun. Question for you.
What's that, sir?
Why can't we have the headlines? Let's have the headlines. Are our oceans being overfished? Now, this is actually, I'm not usually like, okay, I am and I'm not. I am kind of at times the conspiracy theorist, even though I'm never wrong. But with that being said, there's an article in the New York Times. Of course, you can see our links to all of our articles and headlines in our podcast on Review Your Gear's website. But China, not to pick on China, but holy cow, this article is quite interesting. It shows not only all the information statistic, it's got a live map. And so what's going on is China over the last few decades has literally depleted their waters. Okay.
Correct.
The demand has outfished the supply. They've moved on. However, it's from the Indian Ocean to the South Pacific. I mean, they're putting the pinch on everyone. And the last, like, really well-known areas of the Galapagos. Did I say that right?
Yes, you said that right. I'm actually quite proud of you.
Yeah, so am I. But they're fishing teetering right along the edge of those in like 300 ships.
Well, I've heard that they're sneaking into illegal waters.
Well, that is technically in the ocean of the world. It's not really regulated. Like they try to, but it's really, country by country.
Yeah.
And so far they have respected the distance from the Galapagos, but it's getting dire. It's enough where statistically it looks like pretty alarming.
Well, I know Peru They used to have one of the very thriving fish exportation business, and they say that the Chinese has been kind of cutting into their territory, fishing in their territory, and like affecting their fisheries.
Well, and the Chinese use extremely big boats, big fleets,
and they
know what they're doing.
They don't care what they hook, line, whatever they kill. They're just there to harvest and get out of it.
And a lot of the delicacies over there are endangered species on the planet.
It's been that way for years.
Well, right, but in most recent years, they have found Chinese ships with certain types of species. Like, for example, the other year, one had over 6,600 sharks of illicit, for the fins, right?
Shark fin soup.
But they were illegal. And it's just, there's a market for it. So,
yeah.
Well, anyways, I'm not trying to throw the Chinese over my back, but it's alarming.
Yeah.
For Gar's sake, I just wanted to say that. I just like that headline. I don't know why.
That is a great headline.
So, fifth grader was fishing with her dad, and it came in with a giant gar at 8'2". So from this girl, her name is Emily Myers, and it's a really cool story. She really likes to fish, takes it seriously, but that's a big fish.
8'2". That's gotta be 125.
Oh no! Here we go. Renner math.
Well, no, it's a big fish.
What's 8 foot plus 2?
I'm talking pounds.
Okay, but I'm asking you, what's 8'2"? How many inches total?
8'2". Oh God, you got to put me on the spot and do math like that.
This is awesome.
So that's 120 would be 10 feet. So whatever.
Oh, hockey players. Plus 2.
96, 98 inches.
Plus 2. I'm sorry, that was fun. Come on, that was a fun exercise. Trust me, you
just glad you got the Galapagos right.
Yeah, you can start quizzing me on like plumbing around the house, and I'd probably fail. So Biden names a new council for hunting and fishing. This is another one coming from the Meat Eater, and this is really, I guess, nothing new.
No.
In the sense, a council like this is formed for many presidents. I did actually have a conversation with someone on this group that's on the list. I won't mention his name just to be fair. To be fair. But he said it's actually a really solid list of people. The people on the panel are the right people. It just comes down to how much power are they going to be allowed.
Correct.
So I could talk more about but that's really the gist is it's formed. Let's just see what they're able to do.
Yeah.
What is the best way to clean out the freezer for the fall, Mr. Renner?
Have a wild game feed.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. You know what? Does anyone ever tell me if this has ever been done? Does anyone ever just take all their meat, grind it all together, mix it with pork, make sausage, and call it a day?
All the time. There's a lot of people.
It's like a mystery meat sausage.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mix. I got elk. I got goose. I got everything, and everything in between. But
the red meat sausage. That's what.
That's really a thing. I never hear much about that, but it sounds delicious.
I know a lot of people that do that because your freezers get a little bit of full, and especially like if I have some deer steaks that are a couple of years old, I'll grind that up because it's fine for grind meat. It's probably not very good for steaks anymore, but
right,
who's gonna taste it? And stick it in with some geese, it might still taste better than some giants.
Don't be talking smack about geese. And the pheasant hunting seasons are opening. We youth this weekend.
Youth this weekend in North Dakota, and the following weekend we got pretty decent numbers. I think they got hit a little bit last year with some of the blizzards and stuff, but sounds like there's some decent numbers out there. I gotta get out. I have not hunted since my dad's gotten sick. And even if I just go shoot one bird just to say I did it, I gotta do it.
It's not enough for supper.
Oh, yeah, it is. My house is enough.
What?
Oh.
One bird's going to feed your family?
Yeah. Because my kids won't touch it.
Oh, but that would explain. That would explain. Speaking of the old days, what fishing lure makes you think of the good old days?
I'm going to throw one at you.
Okay.
The Erie Deary.
The Erie Deary.
For some reason, my dad was obsessed with the Erie Dearies. In green. And we'd pull those down on Lake Oahe on the flats. And I don't think we were supposed to pull them the way he was pulling.
Fair. What about the Lazy Ike?
Oh, I mean, bring back the Lazy Ike. I think the Lazy Ike needs to be brought back.
I think so. It had a really good action.
Oh, it was a great wobble. I think bring back the Lazy Ike. I think we need to. Next year on Sakakawea, we need to have a Lazy Ike day.
What about the old red-eyed daredevil?
Oh,
who didn't have one of those?
Oh, yeah. There are still some red-eye spoons that I think I'd use for trolling.
Okay.
That would work good for salmon. The other one that I always laughed about was the hula papa.
The hula popper. But you guys didn't even really have bass.
Oh, we would go up to Nelson Lake.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, but we had to throw the hula papa.
I had a lot of bass lures as a kid because, of course, I fished a lot in Minnesota. The fake frogs, I guess there's not one that really stuck out, but I had so many fake frogs. But the best as a kid was live frogs.
Oh, yeah.
We would see back then there was so many frogs that we would drive slow. We call it frogging. We would drive slow about 3, 4, 5 miles an hour. And then us as kids would just walk in front of because we knew where they were going to be, right down by the slough areas. We would get like 3, 4 dozen in a night easily without even trying. For bait.
Ah.
You stuck a hook on through the mouth of a frog and cast that and let it swim around. It's a guarantee, Mr. Renner, for bass. Guarantee.
There's a lake. Actually, there was a couple of them that were the same way with walleyes as a kid that were close by here.
Okay.
Audubon
Yeah.
and New Johns used to be that way for walleyes.
Okay.
From the shore. You throw out a floating jig, hook through the mouth of that frog, let it swim around with that little floater in there.
Yep.
And God, did we catch some big walleyes on New Johns and Audubon back in the day.
Why doesn't it still work?
I don't know.
Because I'm sure it does.
I'm sure it would. We don't shore fishing. We go up there camping and, and New Johns used to have so many frogs around. We used to take a raft, back in the day, bring a raft and we'd bring our pellet guns.
Yeah.
And we'd shoot frogs.
What happened to all the frogs?
A couple of years ago up by Audubon, when we were up there duck hunting, there was a ton of frogs around. So I think they're still around.
Okay. In Minnesota, there was like a red leg disease or some type of disease that this is like 30 years ago or more, but it really hurt over there. But I gotta admit, when we're chubbing, we see a fair amount of frogs.
Yeah.
So they're around. What's cooking on the stone?
What's cooking on the stone?
I know you've been waiting all day to talk about the stone, sir.
Yes, I have.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So this is kind of the conversation I had with my buddy last night. He brought up an ingenious idea. What you do is the week before you go on a big hunting or fishing trip, you pre-cook breakfast burritos. They don't really put them in the fridge.
Yep.
Bacon. The other thing is the more I thought about it is you put out your decoys. Okay. There's always a time that you're in your decoys before you're going out there.
Yep.
Throw them on that truck heater, warm them up nice, and Who doesn't have Taco John's or Taco Bell sauce in their truck?
Why can't you simply just throw them on the portable Blackstone?
Oh, you could do that out in the field too.
Out in the field,
Crisp 'em up.
right in the trailer. Just throw in the trailer. Just
Oh yeah, eat them before you get in a blind.
yeah,
But breakfast burritos, a little bacon, some hash browns in them,
yeah.
cheese, eggs.
Speaking my language.
Oh, I'm like, dude, that is ingenious. And he's like, you got to talk about this. And I'm like, yeah, that's because who doesn't? Plus, you can make a ton of them in advance and either crisp them up or heat them up. Or,
Yeah, use the Blackstone. Make how many potatoes, hash browns, eggs, bacon, maybe even sausage if you're feeling,
if you want to do something,
cheese, peppers, onions.
I mean, it heats up well. It all stores well.
Yeah,
you put them in foil, and it's like, yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm still thinking about this game feed though.
Yeah,
the wheels are turning.
Pheasant stir fry.
The wheels are turning. We should do this like in a month, like right before deer season. People clear out the freezer.
Yeah, clean out the freezer.
So, any new recipes on the horizon, Mr. Renner?
Hey, as far as on the stone,
well, also you got to remember we're going to be launching 2 new recipes a month on the podcasts or on the newsletter. So we got to come up with some interesting stuff.
I think we're going to do a poor man's burnt ends.
Okay.
I'm going to share that one because that recipe turned out phenomenal. I did that one. And then I do got a pretty good fried rice recipe.
I want to make jokes, but I won't. Go on.
But I mean, no, I'm just going to feature and try to get you some stuff and just stuff that you can make in a hurry, whether it's on the Blackstone, on grills, whatever. Be a little versatile. We're going to, we're both not terrible cooks. So it's.
Well, we approach it differently. Like you like to use your smoker.
Yeah.
I'm a saute pan, kind of guy.
I like, if you want me to, prime example, I just bought a thing for my fire pit. This top. It's like, heat a pan.
Yeah.
I do want to do a steak and, where you do it with butter and thyme and garlic and,
nice.
Almost sous vide it in the butter.
Nice.
I'm using big words now. You make fun of my math.
Real quick, 8 times 12.
96.
Yeah, I know. You didn't have to answer. Oh, that's just too funny. But no, we're going to have to do some research, do a little experimenting. We're going to come up with some new. We do have a crowd pleaser, a good old new staple. I'm calling it a new staple because I've had a lot of these. That's going to be in our first newsletter of the recipe in there. And so good every time. Everyone makes theirs differently. So, like, it's a recipe for a base.
Yeah.
But the potential.
Yes. And what you're talking about, too, is I want to find the recipe and try it for pot stickers.
Ooh.
That I heard is amazing with it.
Why wouldn't it be?
Well, yeah. But, I mean, it's kind of on that Asian theme, too. But, I mean.
Yeah. For sure.
God, we always talk food to end it.
And where are we going after this, sir?
I think we're going to go get some food.
What kind of food, sir?
I think we're going to go get some fish.
What kind of fish, sir?
Well, what do we usually get?
A sushi boat. That's how we roll here on Review Your Gear Radio. I'm Chris Husted.
I'm Jason Renner.
We'll see you next time here on Review Your Gear Radio.
Thanks for tuning in to Review Your Gear Radio. Be sure to tune in next episode, and don't forget to check out reviewyourgear.com. Also, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Till next time, tight lines and good times in the outdoors.